Before we turn to the witnesses, in preparation for this hearing, I became aware of the fact that a full-length documentary is being prepared, basically talking about how this study was proposed, how it was conducted. And I asked the producers of that. It's produced by the Informed Consent Action Network. Mr. Sirius represents that organization. And I asked ICANN to put together a 5-minute video representative of what they're going to be discussing as they tell the story of this withheld study. So can we run that video now?
Children struggling every day with ADHD? Scott's allergies made it hard to keep up with his friends.
Allergic reactions from accidental food exposure.
Moderate to severe eczema. Plaque psoriasis. Rheumatoid arthritis.
Food allergies.
Allergy seizure. The health of American children is in crisis.
More than 40% of American children now have at least one chronic health condition.
Autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile diabetes, lupus, Crohn's disease, all this IBS.
Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. Today, it's 1 in 31.
ADD, ADHD, speech and language like tics, Tourette's syndrome, narcolepsy, sleep disorders.
There's no way in the world these kind of rapid increases in the incidence of disease could be genetic. Genetic change takes generations, centuries to play out.
What the heck is happening?
What is happening? Chronic disease has gone from 12.8% in our children in the 1980s to over 54% of our kids now. That's the greatest decline in human health that's ever been recorded. And people will say, how do you know it's not the pesticides sprayed all over our crops or the hormones in our beef or plastics or forever chemicals? But when we're talking about an autoimmune disease crisis, which is what's happening in America, shouldn't we look closest at the one product that's designed to alter our immune system for life? And we don't just inject it 1 time or 2 times or 10 times or 15 times or 20 times or 50 times. 72 times we are altering the immune system for our children with our vaccine program. There'd be one easy study to rule it out. Compare vaccinated children to completely unvaccinated children. But we don't know because they've never done the study.
The CDC's responsibility to do those studies, and they've been ordered again and again and again to do them, and they have refused.
This is information that vaccine safety advocates want, and I'm not sure why it hasn't been done.
What we would need is a scientist that the CDC could trust.
There would have to be a passionately pro-vaccine, highly accredited group of scientists willing to do a super robust, retrospective, vaccinated versus unvaccinated comparative study.
As fate would have it, Del Med, the head of infectious disease at Henry Ford Health System, Marcus Zervos.
Dr. Zervos is the perfect epidemiologist for the study. He's incredibly pro-vaccine, and he's also used to being in high-profile cases because he was at the center of the Flint, Michigan water investigation. Dr. Zervos only agreed to do this study to prove us wrong.
Del and I thought that was an excellent opportunity.
We only had one request.
Whatever the outcome, you publish it. And he said, whatever the results, they get published. Would he stick to that promise if the results show that unvaccinated kids are healthier? Didn't know.
Impact of childhood vaccination on short and long-term chronic health outcomes in children, a birth cohort study. I've never seen this study before.
18,468 subjects.
Henry Ford, like other institutions, has a bias towards the goodness of vaccines. If the results came back demonstrating that the battery of vaccines was associated with chronic diseases, such a result would be particularly convincing. This could be essentially one of the most valuable studies in the field.
The vaccinated subjects were over 4 times more likely to have an asthma diagnosis.
600% more acute and chronic ear infections.
4.47 times the amount of speech disorders in the vaccinated compared to the unvaccinated.
5.5 times risk.
616% increase. Learning issues, developmental delays, speech delays, language delays.
Amongst the unvaccinated group, there were 0
There was 0 brain dysfunction, 0 diabetes, 0 behavioral problems, 0 learning disabilities, 0 intellectual disabilities, 0 tics, and 0 other psychological disabilities. None.
It's a big difference.
Very important this study sees the light of day.
This is devastating.
This paper should have been rushed to publication on an emergency basis.
We are systematically making kids sick, and not just a little bit sick, very sick.
This may be the most important study that has ever been done, and it needs to be published.
He knows if he puts his name on this, his career is over.
I'm honestly really emotional.
Zero's probably going to lose his job over this.
At this point, we all know COVID-19 and how it changed the way we do things around the world. Some people believed in it, some people did not. For those who thought getting vaccinated was a bad idea, I have great news for you. But before I say anything, let's take a sec and watch this following video from 26 November 2025. If you like this kind of topics, please take a sec to like, follow, and leave a comment below. You don't need to get vaccinated to do that. But who knows? Prove me wrong. With that being said, let's go back to the video.
Certainly. Okay. So let's talk about the topic of bias. Would the following statement be considered biased or unbiased? Our president is a misinformation super spreader. I know this isn't surprising to a lot of people, but it's deeply disturbing. Biased comment or unbiased comment? Is that based on science?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
It
quick. This should be quick.
It
Yes,
reflects a bias against the president.
Dr. Rogers, a biased statement, yes or no?
Agreed. Biased.
Dr. Scott, biased? Okay, that was your statement, your tweet on October 1st of 2020. Trump spews misinformation like no other. For our president to say that the problem is that doctors taking care of patients dying from COVID are venal and are committing fraud to cook the books is so low, it's subterranean. Biased or unbiased?
Yes, sir.
Biased?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Scott? Okay, that was your statement in October 25th of 2020. Trump's response to the U.S. COVID crisis, when interviewed by Chris Wallace, it is what it is. Vote like your life depends on it. Biased or unbiased? Mr. Siri?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Rogers?
I think voting's a good thing, but I don't really have an opinion on that one.
But that your life depends on whether this election happens, like you will die if the wrong outcome occurs?
Yeah, that seems
biased?
Seems overstated.
Seems overstated. Dr. Scott?
I stand by it.
Okay, July of 2020, your statement. There are 69 days left of the Trump administration. While he schemes to survive politically, thousands of Americans will die. The number of COVID deaths yesterday was 1,421. If the death total remains the same, then 98,049 deaths will occur between now and January 20th. Biased?
Given the data at the time, I think yes.
Dr. Rogers?
COVID deaths in the Biden administration far exceeded COVID deaths during the first
biased.
Trump administration.
Dr.
Yeah.
Scott?
I hope you get into his post, too.
So biased. Okay. Now, interesting because prior to me coming to Congress, people think I was in the retail automotive business, and that's true, but I also had a tech company. I'm going to tell you a 30-second story. We were asked during COVID to develop a schematic where somebody could validate whether they were vaccinated or not, or tested positive or not, using our blockchain agent. I thought that was terrible technology, so we decided not to do it. But when we had my tech team explore it, what I thought was fascinating was there was no way to find out who had tested positive or who tested negative. There was no data. So, typically with a computer system, you have to plug into a data source, pull the data so that you can report it out. So when we went to the state and said, hey, give me the data, who's been tested and who tested negative, who tested positive, you know what the response was? We don't have that data. It's like, well, that's fascinating because every night when I turn on the news, they tell me it's 1,421 people died of COVID. I'm like, well, that's interesting because if the data doesn't exist, then how do you know that's true? So I just thought I'd share that with you a little bit. So the other piece of the equation is when we talk about science, I think there has to be a certain humility. Now, my dad was a doctor. He beat in our heads that the key to being a doctor is to have humility. I think the humility should be able for us to look back 4 or 5 years later and go, we made a lot of mistakes. A lot of people were harmed. And I think it's the failure of that humility that's infuriating to a lot of people. I'll give you some examples. I have a 4-year-old grandbaby. A 2-year-old grandbaby just turned 2 yesterday. Do you think it was appropriate, yes or no, Mr. Siri, if a 2-year-old have been put a mask on, a 2-year-old? Is that a good idea?
I believe that everybody should be able to make their own medical decisions.
But again, just generally speaking, putting a mask on a 2-year-old.
I wouldn't put a mask on a 2-year-old if it was my choice.
Dr. Rogers?
No,
Dr. Scott?
I wouldn't either.
Okay. You tweeted in January of 2021 that you masked your 2-year-old and that all 2-year-olds should be masked. I'll submit the tweet for the record. That your 2-year-old, I don't know that you have a 2-year-old we've never met.
Well, I changed my mind.
Okay. But again, having the humility to say that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Having the humility,
I'm admitting it. I'm admitting it.
Which is good. I applaud you for that. Having the humility to say, having the humility to say that when you walk into a bar, after having a mask on outside, and then you walk to your table, and then you take your mask off to eat, made sense. We can now look back and go, that was ridiculous.
And I tweeted about that numerous times, how ridiculous that was. So,
well, I'll submit another tweet.
Bias. Selection bias right here.
I'll put your tweet on the record in which you actually said that a man walked outside with a mask, walked into a restaurant, got in a seat, took off his mask and drank a beer and sat with everybody doing the same, as in like, hey, that's normal. In fact, you said something that I thought was very interesting. You said COVID-19 may never go away. So let's keep people isolated and masked. I will submit these for the records. COVID-19 may never go away as a way to keep people locked up inside, keep people out of schools. In my state, in my city, Cleveland, Ohio, we closed our schools for 18 months. You look at why we have youth violence today, you draw a straight line right to those decisions during COVID. That wasn't a virus that made those decisions. Those were elected officials that decided that control of people was more important. And Dr. Scott, I'll give you a chance here. You also said that 1.2 million people died from COVID. From COVID. Now, I was on the board of Metro Health in Cleveland. We had no idea what actually caused people's mortality. What we did do, because the hospital could collect more money, was we labeled anybody who had COVID, who also died, including motorcycle accidents, of dying from COVID. I think what you meant to say, I'm going to give you a chance to clear it up. Did you mean 1.2 million people died with COVID as opposed to from COVID? See the difference?
Oh, I do see the difference. And I also commented quite a bit about the difficulty making that distinction after vaccines had become available. But I think early on, yes, there were a lot of deaths. I lost over 100 patients, okay?
From COVID or with COVID?
COVID, from COVID. COVID was terrible. It
more
definitely became much more complicated to reconcile people who died with COVID from COVID.
But you didn't have a problem. You were a pretty definitive statement. But what Dr. Rogers said earlier was interesting, which is more people died during the Biden years. Now, just to remind everybody, it's important. Biden put out an executive order that said if you don't get vaccinated, you could lose your job. Think about how insane our public policy got. And I think I speak for at least the people I know that this was an important issue. Just maybe start by acknowledging you made a mistake, apologizing for shaming those of us who said, yeah, that's stupid. Like, yeah, that makes no sense. And acknowledging that if we don't have sovereignty over our bodies, then we are not free people. With that, I'll end. Thank you.